Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And the firearm we have on the table today is definitely interesting and probably a gimmick. It's a revolver, but it's not a cool revolver like the semi-automatic Matabas. This is a volley-fire revolver. It essentially has two barrels, and these barrels fire at the same time. This revolver is made by Standard Manufacturing and is called the S333 Thunderstruck. And this is a revolver that came from one of their previous projects called the volley-fire. And it was a pepperbox style revolver which had multiple barrels that rotated. But they changed the design and made it function more like a traditional revolver. It is chambered in .22 Magnum. It is double action only. And the etymology of the name comes from the concept that most of the time in a self-defense shooting, you're going to fire 3 shots in 3 seconds at 3 feet. So this is designed to be a self-defense revolver for pocket carry. But it is kind of big and it looks kind of weird. I think there's a reason why more companies don't make revolvers like this. But who knows? Maybe I'm going to get this to the range and it's going to be the greatest thing ever. However, I do have to say that when I showed this off on the Texas Gun Vault 2, my behind the scenes channel, many of my viewers said, "Oh, you're in for a surprise with that one. That gun shoots terrible." Even the owner of this revolver admitted to me, "You're not gonna like it. It has a terrible trigger and you're not gonna be able to hit the broadside of a barn with it." But you never know. This thing might be a diamond in the rough. So before we take this gun to the range and find out how it shoots, and I share with you all of my thoughts on the things that I like and don't like about it, I do want to thank the people that help make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this revolver. He's a local fan and subscriber, and he's also the husband of my wife's best friend. His name is Bill, and he has a pretty darn cool gun collection. So thank you again, Bill, for lending this to the channel for me to make content with. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not create this content without them. And if you want to join my Patreon, there's a link in the description below. You can join for as little as $1 a month, and you get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who provides all of the ammunition for these range reports and makes them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And here we are again talking about a really interesting gun, a revolver. And most likely if you're watching this video, you love revolvers. Well, you probably love semi-automatic guns as well. Guns like the Colt 1911, the Beretta 92 CZ75, and Browning High Power, just to name a few. And you have these guns in your collection and they might be ready for a really nice upgrade when it comes to their grips. Well, the grip company you need to check out is Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms that have a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark can apply custom logos, custom engravings, custom textures, finish the grips in a wide variety of colors, create his own laminate woods, and even apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to make the grips unique and one of a kind. Every set of grips he makes is made to order. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. And I'm going to ask you to go over there and check out everything he has to offer. And when you place your first order of a set of Brownworks custom grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so we definitely have a lot to talk about when it comes to this unique revolver. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let me give you some close-ups and let's go over all of its features. So let's go ahead and get a close-up of the S333 Thunderstruck by Standard Manufacturing. And as you can see, it definitely has a different profile than your standard revolver. It doesn't have a trigger guard, and that is because you have to get both of your fingers on this trigger to pull it back. And I am not using hyperbole when I say this trigger pull is probably around 20 pounds. It is very heavy. I don't have a trigger pull weight gauge that would measure it. You also have a blade safety. So that coupled with its pull weight makes the revolver relatively safe if you were going to pocket carry it, even though it does not have a trigger guard. But I always recommend carrying any gun in a holster no matter what. This is a double action only 22 Winchester Magnum rimfire revolver. It holds 8 rounds, but you only get to pull the trigger 4 times because 2 of those rounds go off at the same time. The barrel length is 1.5 inches. It weighs 18.2 ounces. The frame is made of 70-75 aluminum, and it has an anodized finish. The grip is made of polymer, and the barrel and the cylinder is made of high-strength steel. Now, on their website, they don't say what type of steel it is. They just say high strength, so I can't give you the numbers on that. And as I mentioned, the pull weight of this trigger is off the scale. So it is probably not going to translate into a great shooting experience. I'm not sure if that really heavy trigger pull is part of the design or just an artifact of the design. So it's either a bug or a feature. I'm not 100% sure. But that seems to be one of the things that everybody complains about it online. So that's everything about this revolver. I'm sorry I can't show you the pull weight on the meter, but it is what it is. But it's just honestly off the scale. So now let me readjust the camera and I'll share with you my thoughts on the things that I like and don't like before taking it to the range. And as always, before going to the range with any firearm I have on the workbench for review, I always want to share with you my thoughts on the things that I like and don't like, and I always want to start with the positive first. And the first thing I really love about this revolver is the fact that Standard Manufacturing was thinking outside the box. This is definitely different. Now, this could be a complete gimmick. It could be a dud and a piece of junk. But at least they're trying something new. I wish more gun manufacturers would do that instead of going back to designs that are over 100 years old and just churning out a gun with a different color. Just give us something new. This is how the firearm manufacturing business is going to progress into the future. I also like the fact that this gun seems to be well built. It seems to be made of good materials, put together well. It doesn't feel like a piece of junk. It kind of feels hefty. I really see nothing wrong with its build quality. I also like the fact that this revolver has a blade safety, much like a Glock. Now, I'm glad that they put it on there because we don't have a trigger guard, but you don't see this on revolvers very often, and I kind of feel like they do need that. Now, let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. Well, it's a double action only revolver. I absolutely hate that. I typically don't shoot them very well, but the trigger pull on this is off the charts heavy. I really wish I could pull the hammer back and at least take some of that energy required to pull that trigger away. I'm also not really a big fan of their marketing. Now, this is one of their older logos. Would you ever buy a gun from STD, Standard Manufacturing? I don't think I would want to put that on my gun safe. STD gun? That honestly is a really bad idea. And then the last thing I don't like about this revolver is that it does use a volley-fire system. I would rather have 8 shots of 22 Magnum than 4 shots of 2 rounds of 22 Magnum. You know, sometimes pulling the trigger 4 times might not be enough. So that's what I like and don't like about this gun. So now it's time to get it to the range. Everyone says it's a piece of junk. It's hard to shoot. It's inaccurate. Well, let's go and find out. So as always, I'm going to start with the target at 7 yards, and I'm going to put 2 cylinders through this. So a total of 16 rounds, but only 8 pulls of the trigger. Hopefully, I'll have some rounds on target, and we'll be able to gauge how accurate this gun is. And this gun is performing exactly as everyone told me it would. It sucks. It's not accurate. And as you also saw, it patterns like a shotgun. I was kind of surprised because I kind of thought with the parallel barrels, we would get a number of different groups with 2 rounds very close together, but that's not what I saw. Sometimes I would pull this trigger, 1 round would be on the bottom part of the target, the other round would hit the top part of the target. Also, when I needed to reload it, you saw that I just couldn't push the ejector rod. I had to get the side of one of my knives and punch it out, and those rounds were sticking in the cylinder. Some of you might ask, what ammunition was I using? For this entire range report, I am using CCI Maxi Mag, so pretty darn quality ammunition. The trigger pull on this gun is horrific. Yeah, this is not a very fun gun to shoot. Now, the recoil is pretty low. I also don't think this would be a good gun for its intended buyer. The reason I say that is this gun is probably going to be marketed to someone that's not really a gun person. They're going to say, hey, here's a little revolver that you can pocket carry. Put in your purse. You just pull it out and pull that trigger, and it's going to save your life. But if you're not a gun person and trained with a gun like this trigger pull at about 20 pounds is probably going to be unusable. You're not going to be used to it. And so some ways, I actually think it's kind of dangerous. All right, so the next test I'm going to do is double the distance of this target. The gun's not shooting well at 7 yards, so I don't have high hopes at about 15. But you never know. I'm getting used to how it shoots. So let's go back to the range and see how I do with the target at double the distance. And pretty much my thoughts with it mirror my first experiences. It honestly just kind of sucks. It's definitely a gimmick. It's a gun designed to be shot at 3 feet, as the name implies. We had fewer rounds on the silhouette, and of course the group was even bigger. So maybe I shouldn't expect too much from it. But it is a light recoiling gun, so I do have to give it some points for that. Alright, so now let's set up the target at 25 yards, and I'm going to shoot this gun from the bench. Will any of the rounds be on target? I don't think so, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So let's go back to the range and see if this gun has any accuracy at this distance. And now normally I would be pretty upset if only 3 of 16 rounds that I sent down range hit the silhouette. But with this revolver, I'm going to call that a win. Now, why is this gun so inaccurate? Well, obviously the trigger, but also the very short sight radius. That might be the shortest sight radius I have ever seen on a revolver, but at least it's not a channel sight or a trench sight. So I actually prefer these. It's kind of a 3-dot system, but it doesn't help that the sight radius is so short. So now I want to test this gun in the way it was intended to be used. I'm going to bring the target back in to 7 yards. I'm going to shoot 1 cylinder through it as fast as I possibly can. So hopefully it's going to be effective this way. I'm just going to act like there's some type of threat that I need to stop, point the gun at it, and just pull the trigger as fast as I can. So let's go back to the range and see how the gun performs under this circumstance. And even when I use this gun as it's intended to be shot, it's even worse. As you saw, it grouped in the bottom part of the silhouette because this trigger pull is so heavy. I know I complain about that trigger after every test. That's the worst thing about this gun. Plus, it doesn't group very well. I also couldn't shoot it very fast. If I'm only going to get 4 shots of a volley-fire revolver, well, I want to pull that trigger faster than that. I also have to say this gun is kind of a flamethrower. Now, 22 Winchester Magnum is kind of a cool cartridge. It's going to have more bark than bite. So I was able to get some really cool shots at the range and show you how much flame comes out of this barrel. That is a pretty cool looking picture though. All right, so the last test I want to do is bring in the target to about 3 yards, the closest I've ever really tested any gun, because this gun is designed for close-up engagement. So maybe at this distance, I'll get better results. So let's redo that last test, now with the target at only 3 yards, and as close as I can get with it at this range. And even at 3 yards, I got exactly the same results. This is horrible. I can't believe I'm shooting this gun this bad. But I don't think it's me. It's the trigger. It's the gun. The barrels don't seem to be parallel. It's just not a great revolver. It's cool in concept, but I think that's honestly about it. So what are my final thoughts on the S333 Thunderstruck from Standard Manufacturing? Well, this is definitely an interesting concept. I think it's a solution in search of a problem. It has a terrible trigger. That's the biggest takeaway of this review. It is not very accurate. Even though the barrels are supposed to be parallel, the rounds do not hit the target like they are. I think it is too big and heavy for pocket carry, which I think is its intended use. So on my star system, how would I rate the Standard Manufacturing S333 Thunderstruck? Well, I'm only going to give it 1.5 stars out of 5. And I honestly think that's being generous. The only points I'm going to give it is for its reliability. I had no problems with it. It went bang every single time. But the trigger sucks. It's not accurate. I think it's too big and heavy for its intended purpose. I actually kind of think it's a dangerous firearm without a trigger guard, and the fact that the trigger is so heavy that if you're not used to it and carried it in a purse or in your pocket and had to pull it for self-defense, you most likely in that moment will not pull that trigger all the way back. It's going to surprise you. So I would not recommend it. But 1.5 stars out of 5. Let me know what you guys think. Have you ever shot or owned a Standard Manufacturing firearm? I know they make more than just this. They're known for making shotguns, and I hear those are actually pretty good. So let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.